Hey, Jim Dunaway from the Next Round. We're ready to relive the weekend in Southeastern Conference football with our friends at Cowin Equipment. We're fired up for another year. Before we look back, though, let me remind you, our friends at Cowin Equipment would love the opportunity to partner with your company for your heavy equipment needs. Visit Cowin.com to find out more about how Cowin can be your heavy equipment solution, from rental and new equipment sales to great service and parts. Check out Cowin Equipment's rental fleet hit list for a wide range of well-maintained equipment from their rental fleet for sale right now. Go to the website, Cowin.com, Cowin.com. Now let's talk a little football. It gets interesting for Alabama now after they hold off Texas A&M, and it's Alabama-Tennessee with two teams in the top 6, and game day is going to be there in Knoxville. What a fun weekend. Best chance Tennessee's had to beat Alabama since...
Oh, my gosh.
2007?
Saban's first year?
Since the last time they did it?
Yeah.
No.
They had a good chance to beat them that day, 2007.
Yeah, they did. No,
yeah.
they got run off the field, though, that day.
Yeah, they got drilled that day.
That was the I got a text early, textbook game.
That's right.
And they're like, man, you got to play Tennessee.
No, there's no doubt this is the best chance Tennessee has winning since 07. There's zero doubt about that.
And they haven't won since 06. So we got a whole bunch of what old school Alabama fans call Tennessee Hate Week coming up on the Crimson side of this. And for the Volunteers, after a big win at LSU, there's a lot of belief that this team is a college football playoff contender, and they can get one of these big games with Alabama, Georgia. They may get two of them.
Boy.
And then you go this week.
Well, look,
I'm just the reaction to this Tennessee LSU game is so out of whack. So out of whack.
I don't know if it is.
Oh, it is 100%.
Because I said, look, okay, during the summer, I predicted Alabama's one misstep this season would be Tennessee.
Me too.
Yeah. And watching Tennessee, first part of the year, the offense really good. Didn't trust the defense. But for them to go on the road, and they dominated from the kick. I mean, it was over before it began.
Josh Heupel, after the win down in Baton Rouge on this 5-0 start for the Big Orange.
First 5-0 start since 2016. What does that just say about the program and where the program is headed?
Man, it says that we found a way to be the best team on the field the last 5 weeks. And our players have worked hard. They expect to play in a really good way, expect to win. I love this group. They continue to get better in their practice habits. They love one another. They have fun while we're competing every day. And I think that shows up in the way that they play, too.
You know, Alabama didn't have Bryce Young, and Jimbo wanted to make a point that in his eyes they didn't have their starting quarterback either. Here's Jimbo.
There'll be a narrative to come out of this game from some quarters that they didn't have Bryce Young, if not for the turnovers. You know.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Anais Smith. We didn't have our left tackle. We didn't have our left guard. We didn't have McKinley Jackson first time he's played. We didn't have Shamar Turner. I mean, other people, we've been shorthanded all year too. Ain't nobody, we don't look for qualms, and they don't, and he won't either. I know Nick. He ain't gonna look for no qualms. Yeah, I mean, we're playing a backup quarterback too. I mean, so that was two good teams that looked up and battled and went at it, and shows you what we're capable of.
Technically not your backup quarterback, the guy who's won your job twice, but I understand what he's saying.
No, he had a good point about the other part. I mean, everybody's got injuries right now. It happens to be quarterback for Alabama, which is a key injury, but you can't paint Haynes King as your backup.
Oh, and
he's won the job twice last year
under you.
Year,
yeah.
And there's a bigger drop when you're talking about the best quarterback in Alabama history, possibly, to the backup quarterback. Yeah. It's not. There's just not much difference between Max Johnson. and
A&M had a better chance of winning that game with Anais Smith in there rather than Max Johnson. Like if you could have said, Jimbo, who you want in there, I think he'd have taken Anais Smith rather than Max Johnson. So
I still think
the bigger injury for them was a receiver,
and
not
this
quarterback.
Is not a shot at Milroe, and he had a couple of mistakes, and Saban pointed those turnovers out after the game. But I do have a feeling that if Bryce would have played in this game, they would have won by 3 or 4 touchdowns.
I agree.
Yeah, well, maybe if Jalen hangs on to the football when moving around with a little bit more playing experience and knowing how to protect the ball when he's scrambling, they may win by a couple of touchdowns. Alabama drops to number 3 in the new AP poll. Georgia's back to 1. Ohio State 2, Alabama 3. Here's Nick Saban after the win over Texas A&M on that last play of the game.
Nick, when your defense has its backs up against the wall and they make a stop like that, how valuable is that moving forward?
Well, I think 2 big stops in the game. You know, the 4th down stop before that was huge. Look, if we'd have played and done things the right way, they wouldn't have been in that situation. But when you get in that situation, you got to embrace adversity sometimes and step up and make plays, and they did that. And I think that's really, really important that they have the competitive maturity to be able to do that.
Nick Saban, after the win, is now off to Tennessee, where Alabama opened as a 7.5-point favorite in that game. Tennessee 40-13 at LSU. Big story out of Knoxville, though, yesterday. Jalen McCullough, one of their starters on the defense, arrested for aggravated felony assault. And, you know, we've talked about the Tennessee defense several times throughout the year, that may be the thing that separates them from winning a championship or not. That's a big loss if he doesn't play in the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 4-year starter that's 4th on the team in tackles right now. And the secondary, Brown, you brought this up before, has had some problems. So McCullough would be a huge loss based on the reports, and we were talking about this in one of the breaks, that we've read this felony assault. I mean, basically knocked a guy downstairs after the guy came into his apartment, went to the wrong apartment. Guy's teeth were knocked out. I find it hard to believe McCullough will play on Saturday.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, their pass defense, just, you know, that's obviously the legal side of it. The on-the-field side, pretty much every quarterback that plays them has a career day. And if Jaden Daniels, and Anthony Richardson can do to that secondary what they did, a fully healthy Bryce Young, or maybe not even 100% Bryce Young, I can't imagine what he could do. So I think that is a massive story going into this game.
7.5. Alabama's the favorite. Alabama, Tennessee, 2:30. CBS coming up this weekend. Auburn's at Ole Miss. Ole Miss 15.5 is where that opens. So more than a 2-touchdown favorite. The Rebels and Lane Kiffin after they struggled early and got a win over Vandy. But Georgia handled Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry the way you would expect that game to have played out. A little over 30 point, 29.5 point spread. And Auburn struggled in that game from the get-go. A lot of people criticizing Brian Harsin for rolling the dice early on with that play call, and almost looked as if he was a little desperate to try to make something magical happen for Auburn.
Well, the reason you don't question a decision like that if Georgia's on their A game, because you got to take some risk. But Georgia was not playing well. Georgia did not play well at all on Saturday. Stetson Bennett's off right now.
Yeah. I mean, that score covers up some really bad offensive play by Georgia in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, in that first half, Georgia was off offensively, which is, you know, and I know I've got the hindsight, the benefit of hindsight, knowing that, okay, Georgia didn't really do a whole lot the entire first half, but it's what made that call by Harsin so puzzling. I mean, your defense was winning the game at that point. Your defense was winning that battle over their offense. They couldn't do much. And then you turn around and give them a short field and get the crowd in the game, you know, just wake them up offensively.
Do you feel like he was doing that? Do you feel like he was doing that because he knew he was, you know, massive underdogs? He was trying to sort of flip the script, maybe hit that play a little too early?
Well, I think he did it because he knew his offense couldn't score. Now, why you do it at that part of the field, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. We got to work on that. You know, that remains to be seen. I can sit up here and tell you, but until we actually go out there and prove it, you know, it's just a matter of us going back and looking at those things, which we have, and a continuation of what we have to do to get better at it. You know, I got to look at everything that we're doing, everything we're doing on a Sunday and a Monday and a Tuesday, just our preparation and every single thing that we do, right? If it's not working, you don't want to go back and continue to try to do the same things over and over and over. All right, there's a process, there's a plan, but it has to be better. And so that starts with me. That starts with what we are actually doing, how we're teaching, how we're practicing, how we're emphasizing all the things that showed up in every single one of these games, because we want a different result.
You get the debate of when, if, inevitable, not inevitable, when it's going to happen. You can spend every second of every day doing that. You guys all have your opinion. It could happen right now. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen next week. It could happen in December. It'll happen when it happens.
I've got a different take on this now, though.
Okay.
I thought it would happen. It's almost becoming a pissing match between the boosters and Harsin, because it almost seems like Harsin's ready, like the relief, just to be let go and get his $18 million. But it's almost like the other side now is like, we think this guy wants out. we're just going to make him go through this season.
Make him earn that buyout?
Yeah, make him earn the buyout and just get embarrassed because, I mean, it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah. I don't know about getting embarrassed, but I've said it for the past few weeks. Why not go ahead and make him – I mean, he's going to get the money regardless. Somebody's got to run the program. We're not going to stop playing football the rest of the year. You're not going to really jump ahead of anybody in a coaching search. If you need to get out there and get ahead of somebody, then maybe you can make a move. But until then, if who you're after isn't going to be impacted, you can't hire him right now. That person's going to finish their job this year too. I don't see a benefit. Just let the $16 million, let him earn it.
Yeah, I mean, there are, like Bobby pointed out over the weekend, everybody that says there's not benefits to firing a coach, go look at how Georgia Tech has played since they fired Jeff Collins. That is true. There are benefits. A lot of times teams play better once it happens. It's a kind of a reset. They play for the interim. You know, what does that gain you in the long run? I don't know. I mean, if Auburn finishes this season, if they fire Harsin and it sparks them and they finish 6-6 and go to a bowl, great, right? But if they keep Harsin and they finish 4-8 and don't go to a bowl, how has that changed the future of Auburn football? And don't give me bowl buyout.
Well, it hadn't, but I mean, for the players, it's more fun. For the fans, the season's a little more fun.
Absolutely.
Because right now, if you've got 6 games to go, if I put the win total on these final 6 games at 1.5 for Auburn,
I'd take the under.
I would take the under. Let me go back to SEC Media Days.
All right.
Where Mark Stoops hinted that about, the way he's built his program compared. He never said Shane Beamer, with funny sunglasses or dancing around and all sorts of hype videos and all of that. But South Carolina goes into Kentucky. No Will Levis. Kentucky loses the football game. South Carolina beats them. And in the locker room, Shane Beamer, remembering what was said about, culture and the way you build a program, and they had a little fun there in the Kentucky, in Lexington's locker room.
Hey, make sure we're classy in our post game with the media, all right? But at SEC Media Days, he talked about stupid sunglasses and dancing. Put them on, Cowin.
Oh, my gosh. Let's make sure we're classy in the postgame. But
turn it up, Rocky.
He's going Tyreek Hill.
They turned it down. I didn't.
Okay, they turned it down. Pump it a little bit for me if you can.
It's maxed.
Yeah.
I do love the, everybody be classy in your postgame. But let me turn my hat around backwards, put some sunglasses on.
If I would have told you on October 8th, back in August, that there would be 2 bigger coaching feuds on October 8th than Saban and Jimbo Fisher, you would have said no way.
Hilarious.
Tell us about Cowin LT.
Yes, Dunaway. If you are having a hard time finding that heavy piece of heavy equipment, check out Cowin Equipment's rental fleet hit list for a wide range of well-maintained equipment from the rental fleet for sale now. Visit cowin.com/featured used equipment or call 800-239-COWIN for more information.